Welcome back. I hope everyone's had a nice break. Well rested. Ready to plow on to the end. It's really not that long left. Surprising. This work is done. It's a rapid downhill race. So, in any case, welcome back. We are going to jump into this week. A couple of topics. Today we're going to talk about some of the ins and outs and specifics of oral rehab or auditory rehab with adults. They present a unique population as most age groups. Let's talk about our population. As of 2006, we had about 4 million people in the young adult range. So young adults are 18 to 46 that had hearing loss. Okay. They're considered young adults, which I think is kind of pushing it. But, as opposed to being elderly, okay. But I would say like maybe 18 to 35 would be young, and 35 to 55 is middle age. But anyway, I don't make the classifications that NIH does. So anyway, they also found that in 2006, which was the latest year that they had survey statistics, were that there were 500,000 people who were functionally deaf. What's our definition of deaf? What threshold level? Above 70 dB. Yeah. Their health-related quality of life issues, that's what the HRQOL, are far-reaching in that group. And depending, we talked a little bit earlier in the semester about the impact of hearing loss on people at different ages and how, especially in younger adults or in middle-aged adults, it really impacts their self-image. It really impacts their self-perception, their roles, things of that nature. And so, depending on their age, we're going to see different quality of life issues. It could be personal fulfillment or their psychological well-being. It could be physical and material. It's impacting their income, their vocational aspirations or their vocational capabilities, and obviously role fulfillment. So just realize that, and I think that you probably picked up on that to some degree from the article that you had to read and write your paper on, that there are lots of different perspectives that we can approach hearing loss from. We can look at it as solely a socioeconomic thing. We can look at it as solely a psychosocial thing. We can look at it from the vocational standpoint. We can look at it from a political standpoint. There's lots of different perspectives. And when we're dealing with adults, with kids, we're really dealing mostly with psychosocial and educational issues with them. Those are, not that there aren't going to be some of these others, but those are the really meaty aspects or perspectives that we look at. With adults, you really have to look at everything. Okay? So, let's look at some closer examination of some of the facts. Between 1910 and 1965, only 200 students who were documented to be deaf or hard of hearing graduated from college in the U.S. So in a 55-year span, we're pretty sure we're aware of every single individual with hearing loss or deafness that graduated from college. 200. By 2000, by the year 2000, folks who are deaf and hard of hearing account for the largest percentage of quote-unquote disabled students on college campuses. So, in a generation, we've gone from virtually no one with hearing problems being able to attend and graduate college to basically now, the dawn of the 21st century, they account for the largest group of disabled students on college campuses. So we've made a lot of progress. There's that's something to be very proud of. But there are some challenges. There have been a number of studies that have been replicated over the last 35 years that suggest that folks who have significant hearing loss graduate with a reading level equivalent of a typical fourth grader. Now, my son's in 5th grade, so he's not very far from the 4th grade. And I know the types of things that he's able to read and have no problems with. And so, at first glance, I mean, that's really not that bad. I mean, you can read a science textbook, a history textbook. But if you think back to maybe some coursework that you had back in those late elementary grades that you since had a college level course on, and how different the writing is, how much more sophisticated it is. It's a lot more abstract. There's a lot fewer pictures and illustrations and things. And we know that people with hearing problems typically tend to be quite visual, obviously, because their auditory system is the weakest link. So a lot of those things that maybe younger folks are understanding or grasping because there's so much more supplemental visual information, it's going to be lacking. So obviously, if you have an adult who's reading at a fourth grade level, they're going to struggle. They're going to have problems. You know, my son would not be able to probably independently take out the instructions on how to assemble our charcoal grill. There's going to be things in there, there's going to be words that he doesn't understand. So it helps me to think of it in that way that, yeah, kind of basic, like leisure type reading, probably not a problem. But if you start getting into more professional, technical material, folks with significant hearing problems are going to really struggle, okay? What's even scarier is, even though the majority of folks are reading at a fourth grade level, as many as 20% of them are only reading at or below the second grade level. And when I think of the difference in how well my son read in the second grade compared to where he is now, it's a huge difference. You know, in the second grade, kids are just making that transition from learning to read to reading to learn. And there's a huge difference. I mean, you guys read to learn. Second graders still learning to read. And so that's a significant issue that we have to address. A survey of the disability benefits from Social Security showed that there are 60,000 people that are receiving benefits from SSI for a diagnosis of deafness. So that may not sound like a lot, but it's probably one of the largest single diagnoses. Okay? And what is really interesting is that when they look at employment data, and you always have to, I think, look at any of the employment data statistics with a little bit of a grain of salt, because depending on who's publishing it, what perspective they have, what bias they have, you may or may not be getting real accurate, factual information. But basically what they have found in several studies from different sources in reviewing employment statistics is that the rate and the level of employment for folks who are deaf and hard of hearing mirrors fairly closely the employment statistics from those that have significant learning disabilities. So obviously issues of underemployment and unemployment, are running rampant. And then when you end up with an economy that's still in kind of a recovery mode, like we're in right now, the rate of unemployment and the rate of underemployment in any of those subspecialty groups is certainly going to be higher than the average. So it's not just that we have to have them have better access to auditory information, we have to improve their ability to read, to otherwise communicate so that they're going to be able to be maximally functional and have the highest quality of life possible in the workplace as well. And you can see that in 2011, which was still kind of beginning to middle of the Great Recession, the national average unemployment was 8.9. And for folks who are deaf and hard of hearing, it was 16.5, so it was almost twice. Okay? The dropout rate, the high school dropout rate overall in the U.S. is hovering at around 18%, and it's over 40% in folks who are deaf and hard of hearing. The college graduation rate in the U.S., which I was surprised that it was as low as it is only 13% in the general population. I would have thought it would be significantly higher, but I think maybe part of that is just because of the environment that I'm in, and when you're part of that group, you don't necessarily recognize that you are the minority that you are. But it's only 5%, so it's like almost 2/3 less in the deaf and hard of hearing population. So while we should be patting ourselves on the back and applauding the fact that compared to, a generation ago, we have a significantly higher number of folks who are deaf and hard of hearing attending college, and we probably have more than 200 deaf and hard of hearing students on this campus. Think of it in that perspective. That's huge compared to what it was before. When we consider that only 5% overall are graduating, that's really low. And here's the thing that I think is really, really striking is that if you are a deaf or hard of hearing person and you graduate from college, your lifetime earnings will exceed your peers who didn't by 68%. So that's a big difference. So we're struggling with this dichotomy of we can see the dramatic benefits to college education for folks who are deaf and hard of hearing, and yet we're still seeing a relatively small number of folks who are actually able to make it. So we've got to be doing things to help boost those numbers. Yeah.
Does that mean their peers are also deaf and hard of hearing?
Right, but who don't have a college education. Right? So, I mean, just to think of it in round numbers, if say the average income is $100 a week, they're going to be making of most people who are hard of hearing, the ones that went to college are going to be making $168 a week. You add that up over the course of a year, it's a huge difference. Okay? So really, we cannot underplay the importance of making sure that young adults who are deaf and hard of hearing have the skills that they need in order to be able to compete on a fair playing field with folks who have much of the because the impact that it will have on their, particularly on their career and education, career and vocational and financial stability is dramatic. So, one of the things that we need to remember is that IEPs, children who are deaf or hard of hearing, are eligible for an IEP. But the IEP only is in place until they reach age 21 and or graduate from high school. Once they are out of high school or they've reached age 21, whichever comes first, they're no longer eligible for an IEP. However, they are eligible for accommodations under Section 504 of the Rehab Act, because that does not have age limits. Remember, we talked, folks can request accommodations under the 504, Section 504, even in employment. It's not restricted to the education. So there are some unique considerations that need to be factored in when a person with hearing problems is considering school. Not every school has the same policy for determining eligibility. Some schools require just simply a statement from your physician verifying that you have hearing loss. Others are going to require copies of medical records, including hearing test results, that verify that you have a loss. Some of them have graded accommodations, and so depending by graded I mean the more hearing loss you have, the more services that you become eligible for. And so there's often a smorgasbord of offerings. And so someone who maybe has a unilateral hearing loss but normal hearing in 1 ear is going to be offered very different accommodations than someone who has a binaural severe to profound hearing loss. And there's going to be different levels of accommodations that are available in between. The nice thing is that with the 504 plan, it's a double-edged sword. First of all, you have to request it, okay? It's not something that you're automatically eligible for. If you would like 504 accommodations, you have to request it. And once the person's out of high school and is of legal age, they have to do it. It can't be your mom or your dad or your grandma or anyone else. If you're an adult, you have to request it. What did he say was one of the characteristics of many children who have hearing loss? They tend to be very passive. Why? Because their parents did everything for them. So now they're suddenly thrown into this adult world where they're expected to be wearing big girl britches. A lot of them, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of them drop out. They just don't, they can't make it. It hasn't been built into them some of the skill sets that they need to be successful, so they drop out. So first of all, they have to request it, and again, we're dealing with this hierarchy of services in terms of what they might get and how that eligibility is going to be established. Not every institution is going to offer the same services. Some programs will offer note takers for you, so that they'll actually have someone who is like an aide or an assistant for you, and they take notes for you. Others, they ask for teacher notes, or they ask for, and a lot of instructors are doing these things for everyone, like making slide presentations available ahead of time, making sure that the syllabus, has all of the assignments coming in, so you can be looking at it and pre-planning. But not everyone does, and so there are different types of services. You really want to know what's available out there. Do they have interpreter services available? Is it ASL? Some places have interpreter services available, but it's not ASL. Well, if ASL is your primary mode of communication, having an assigned exact English interpreter ain't much help. Or vice versa, maybe you signed exact English and they have an ASL interpreter. Well, that's not going to be as much assistance. Do they have transliteration services? Who knows what transliteration is? Basically, it's to help you translate or convert material from ASL into written English, printed English, so that because the grammar is different, helping you make sense of that. So,
They translate ASL into English?
helping with that process, because I'm up here doing a lecture, and we may have an ASL interpreter who is signing it for a deaf student, but then when the student goes to read the book, it's written in regular English. And so that transliteration services, when there's someone to help them bridge and understand what's different between what's in the printed word versus the visual word. Does that make sense? Every school has a different process for how instructors are notified. Here at Miami, we're lucky. We have a pretty comprehensive, pretty flexible, and helpful disability services office. And they will assist the students. They have a letter that spells out very clearly what the student's diagnosis or what their qualifying condition is. It typically has at least some general guidelines and accommodations, but then it also allows the student and the individual instructor to communicate and negotiate any additional accommodations that may be needed specific to that particular subject, that particular classroom situation, what have you. The sticking part that I have found is that Miami has some pretty stringent documentation requirements to establish eligibility. They're not just going to take a physician's letter. They're going to need to see more documentation. For certain things, I mean, some things it's fairly obvious, but particularly for learning disabilities and things like auditory processing problems and even unilateral hearing loss, I've had some students really need to get some support documentation from a variety of sources to help establish it. But once you have that need established and it's on file, you're typically good to go. You have a caseworker that helps manage your case, works with you, and provides some of that safety net, some of that support that a lot of folks with hearing loss are going to need. Yes.
Are any of the students that are trying to get services come here to get evaluated? And do a lot of them come to get services for, like,
We have a number of Miami students who establish with us when they get on campus, so that, because it's convenient. If they're from Des Moines, they don't want to have to go back to Des Moines every time that they have a problem with their hearing. So most of them, but again, the Disability Services Department is allowed to tell us, okay, here's our list of hearing impaired students. It's up to them. Now they would typically say, we have a speech and hearing clinic on campus. We have 5 audiologists in the clinic. Here's their contact number. We encourage you to contact them, establish with them so that if something goes wrong. Because the nice thing is, typically like for hearing aids, your warranty is between you and the company that manufactures it, not between you and the provider. And most providers who are decent human beings will honor that. And so if you're still within your covered warranty period, even though we didn't dispense it, we'll get it to the manufacturer and back to you. We'll do the go-between. It's going to take us all of maybe 5 to 7 minutes to fill out the form, put it in a box, seal it in a FedEx envelope, and call FedEx to come and pick it up. And then it's going to take the receptionist another minute and a half when it comes back to tell you, oh, by the way, your hearing aid's back. If they're out of warranty, then they're going to have to pay for their services because then they'd be out of pocket anyway. But yeah, you'd be surprised at the number of students that we have. Just like I have 4 students right now who stutter. And so, yeah, we do get just kind of nice. And we offer, we have special student rates for most of our services so that they are significantly discounted for our students compared to, for example, a speech therapy session for an hour is typically $60. And if they were they have a voice problem and they get a stereoscopy done, the normal charge for that's $325. So I mean, we do work with them. Absolutely. Okay. So, something that is available to help, particularly with this transition from school to employment, are the state vocational rehab programs. Every state must offer, does offer, vocational rehabilitation services. The process, unfortunately, is not at all uniform. I was very well versed in the Kentucky and Florida processes, which are very similar and extremely generous. So when I started practicing here in Ohio again, it was a rude shock for me because the process is very, very different. For example, until 2010, neither Kentucky nor Florida's process considered income. So, if you were a physician who had hearing loss and needed hearing aids and needed a specialty stethoscope that was an amplified stethoscope to allow you to do your examination, they were going to pay for it in full, just like they would if you were a medical student in training to be a physician and had no money. They paid the same amount. But when the economy tanked, the United States started reconsidering those eligibility requirements, and they started implementing income guidelines. And so, depending on your income, you may be eligible for 100% payment for services on down to 0%, but we'll at least help you get hooked up with the people who can provide it. So it ranges now from anywhere from kind of a referral, outsourcing type of a situation to full financial responsibility. But basically what they will do is provide you with assistance and training. So they actually may pay for college tuition. They may pay for specialized vocational training. They do job coaching. I've worked with a number of individuals with varying diagnoses where they actually have a person who is experienced in whatever the job is, or something as easy as where I used to work for Easter Seals. There was a sheltered workshop nearby for individuals with developmental disabilities, and one of the things that they were really well known for is they had this great custodial and janitorial training program, and they did a lot of in-house training with them, and then they would find places that were willing to employ these folks, and their job coach would actually be with them and kind of follow them around in a real world scenario for a period of time to make sure that they really could apply what they had learned to the specifics of that environment, and then gradually pull it out so that they were available kind of as a, once a quarter they would come and observe. So that's what a job coach does. It's basically we help you transition those skills from kind of a classroom learning environment into the real world, and those are services. They are a great resource for referring you to other sources of assistance in the community. So they work as sort of case managers. If you need an audiologist, if you need a prosthetist, if you need an eye doctor, whatever it is, they're going to help you. And obviously, for many people, the big thing is that financial piece, and it varies dramatically. I know in Kentucky, they would pay $800 per year for hearing aids, and they would pay us $175 for a fitting fee So basically, we were getting just under $1,000 for getting a set of hearing aids. And we were only required to do follow-up visits with them at their charge. And then if they needed further visits, we'd have to go through a pre-authorization. Well, our average was about $1,500 per year for hearing aids, and typically those came with a 2 or 3 year warranty, so we were obligated to provide unlimited follow-up during that period of time to our regular patients. So when you look at it from that standpoint, it's really not a bad deal. We weren't really losing anything because it's not that we would deny them service, but they knew they needed to take care of them, they needed to pay attention to what we were training them, because there was going to come a point when the dimes stopped rolling, or they had to really prove that they needed further financial assistance. So it wasn't that bad a deal. Now, they do look at their income. So the maximum that they'll pay is that $800 per year. They still will pay the full $175 for the fitting fee. But where it comes in is you have to decide what level of technology to provide, because out of that $800, you're paying to the manufacturer $750 for that hearing aid, you're not making it. But if you're paying $300 or $350, you're making a decent markup. So anyway, the financial assistance is probably the piece that is most variable from state to state. They all have different eligibility requirements in terms of your finances and how much you're going to get. So typically what will happen is, for this process, person is going to meet with some allied health professional who's going to say, oh, you know what, I think you might be eligible for services through vocational rehab, and we'll make the referral to a counselor. Or it could happen the opposite. They could have gotten hooked into the voc rehab system, who then refers them to the allied health professionals. But there's that whole kind of referral process. At that point, evaluations are done, and for us, we typically will provide them with their evaluation, and then we make recommendations for amplification and assistive technology. Typically have to get that pre-approved, so we submit it to voc rehab and say, this is what we want, this is why, and then they will approve it or not. Sometimes you have to negotiate back and forth a little bit. And then, at that point, we'll provide the direct interventions, and maybe we recommend that they go through some speech reading training or some communication strategy training. So we might put in a psychologist at that point. But any of the services that they need, if they need job coaching, the voc rehab folks are going to provide them with a job coach, someone who's already doing that or who has experience in doing that job, preferably someone who is experienced with dealing with that type of disability, and they then will handle the case management and oversee that transition. So it's a pretty cool service. I have 2 principals in vocational rehab counselors. One is herself hearing impaired, which is really kind of cool because her patients love her. She knows exactly what it is that they're going through. And then I have another one who started off in social work. And our folks who are a little bit older, so our middle-aged folks, are going to have different needs and different challenges than our younger adult people who are still navigating that transition from school into the working world. And they tend to make up probably a majority of the patients that we see. But voc rehab can really help them as well, because what often happens is these are folks who have either had a sudden onset of hearing loss, or it's gradually gotten worse, and now they're at the point where it's really impacting their ability to do their job. A good example, I had a woman who I had been her mother's audiologist for probably 8 or 9 years. And she would always bring in her mom. And she's a nurse and RN, worked at the hospital right down the street from our clinic, where we were actually also providing speech therapy services. So I knew her, and we interacted all the time. And one day I noticed her on my schedule, and thinking, this is weird. So I just assumed that because her mom had hearing loss, she was wanting to get a baseline. And then, unbeknownst to me, she'd been struggling with hearing loss for a number of years, and it had gotten so bad that her supervisor told her, if you do not do something about it, we will have to let you go, because it's to the point where potentially patient safety is at risk. Her hearing loss was such that she had trouble hearing some of the alarms going off on patient equipment. She was no longer able to reliably, and this probably been for a while, but was not able to reliably listen for chest sounds, respirations, or for blood pressure using a stethoscope. And so we did our assessment, and I started talking to her about hearing aids, about some of the adaptations or the specialty pieces of equipment that would be beneficial for her to have, like an amplified stethoscope, for example, and some other things. And I was kind of going through the catalog and showing her these things, and she was seeing the prices, and her eyes were, and big, and she looked like she had vertigo or something. She's like, there's no way I can afford this. And the beautiful thing is, she didn't have to. She did have some benefit through her insurance, which is rare, because most insurances still don't cover hearing aids or hearing assisted technology. But she did have a small benefit. She had like $500 per year benefit over 5 years. And she was going to be eligible for voc rehab services, so I got her hooked up. And we were able to save her job, hopefully save a few patients in the process. It was like, good Lord, how long has this been going on? Because, it was kind of scary. Thankfully, she was not like in a telemetry unit or an ICU. She was on a med search floor. So typically what she was missing was someone's IV beeping, or they had a tube feeding pump, beeping. No one was going to die from that necessarily, although if he had an included IV that's infusing mega doses of antibiotics because you're septic, then yeah, I guess that could be a little bit life-altering, but you get the point. So even though they're not necessarily transitioning into a career, voc rehab services can be very beneficial for folks who are well established in their career and helping them to maintain their career. Or it could be something where maybe they're in a career or a profession where that's no longer going to be an option. Imagine the air traffic controller whose hearing is extremely important, and who I missed dearly when we were trying to get out of Cincinnati for our spring break vacation. Their hearing is absolutely critical. They must have documented, I believe it's every 6 months. I know it's at least every year, but I think it's every 6 months. They have to undergo hearing tests, and they cannot have any more hearing loss, or they lose their job. So imagine the air traffic controller who gets a viral infection, gets labyrinthitis, and now has hearing loss. He or she's going to have to find a new career. And so Voc Rehab can help with that transition as well. So they can provide counseling and guidance. They can do skills assessments. You guys have probably done interest inventories or skill assessments before, maybe helping you decide what major you want to pursue after college. They can do things like that, and then they can assist in that training and retraining process. And then all the other things, the hearing aid and assistive technology purchases, interpreter services, job placement assistance, all of those other services. So it's not something that's just for young adults transitioning into. And personally, I think these types of services are almost more critical, as we provide in that age group. And I would want some help if suddenly I couldn't do my job anymore. But they really are critical. We have a number of patients that we work with down in the clinic who are getting services through Voc Rehab that have this kind of scenario where they've been doing their job for years and years, and suddenly their hearing is impacting their ability to successfully complete their job description, and so these services are thankfully available. Indiana is the hardest to deal with in the tri-state area. Indiana is the least generous, has the most bureaucratic hoops that you have to jump through, and has the lowest in terms of dollar amount benefits that they're going to provide to the patient and to the provider. Kentucky is probably still the most generous, and then Ohio is Pennsylvania. But Ohio and Kentucky, their processes are pretty similar and fairly easy to navigate once you know what it is that you have to do. Okay? So, when we're dealing with adults, having just recently read an article and written a paper, you probably know what some of the major types of rehab strategies are going to be. When you examined, read, and wrote about group oral rehab, but we're still going to do, at least as an audiologist, we're still going to go through some individual oral rehab. There's nothing else that orientation to the devices and the assistive technology, because that's typically included in what they pay for the purchase price of experience. Anything beyond that, then it's typically going to be a speech pathologist doing it, and that's going to be something that they either hopefully have some sort of insurance benefit or sort out of pocket. But the first thing that happens is the hearing aid selection, fitting, and then that orientation, counseling, and adjustment period. I personally, and I think most of my colleagues, if not all of my colleagues downstairs, we tend to do a lot more education and counseling on the front end during that process of selecting the hearing aids, looking at the patient's lifestyle and specific communication needs, so that we don't end up seeing them week after week for follow-up after the fact. But in many places they don't. They just say, okay, particularly hearing aid stores or folks that are in private practice that maybe have kind of an exclusive agreement with one manufacturer, they're just going to say, okay, this is your hearing loss, this is the hearing aid that you need to get, this is the price, and this is what you can expect. Whereas with us, we spend a lot more time figuring out where are they having specific problems. Those of you who've sat in it, I typically say, I would bet based on your hearing that you're having problems in this kind of situation, this kind of situation, this kind of situation. And they start shaking their head, yes, and then I know I've got some buy-in. And I can say, okay, so if we can help you hear better when you're watching TV, we can help you hear your wife better when you're riding in the car, and we can help you understand your grandchildren better when they're over for a visit, that'd make you pretty happy, right? Okay, so we spend a little bit more time on that front end, making sure that we're on the same page with the patient, and it really becomes kind of their idea and their decision about what they're going to get. They're going to be much more likely to be successful than if we just say, okay, this is what we need, and then when it comes in, show them how to use it. We've already kind of prepared them for what some of their realistic expectations are going to be. So I kind of, we talked about the COSI, the COSI, it's the client-oriented outcome measure, where I kind of keep that in my mind, and I try and find at least 3 to 5 situations that they're struggling with that I know we can realistically get some benefit from. And I found that if you do that, if you can get them to admit to 3 to 5 different problems that they're having, and you can find a solution that's going to get them improvement with those, that you're going to be successful. But in any case, so that's going to take those first 2 steps, the selection and then the orientation, education, and adjustment. Just like the article said, hearing aids do not cure hearing aids do not function perfectly. The person's still going to struggle. And what's the main problem, or the main complaint of people with sensory non-hearing aids? Why did it come in? What did you say? Well, not just, noise is going to be their worst problem, but kind of related to that, what the hell is it? I don't have a hearing problem, everyone knows. No, everyone doesn't. You have problems understanding speech, understanding what's being said. Or they'll say to me, well, I can hear just fine, I can't make out what people are saying. And those are the complaints you get. Hopefully with good digital technology that has been thoughtfully selected, they're going to do dramatically better. But if you have a person like my dad, who had hearing loss from around the age of 30 or 35, and waited till he was 65, do anything about it, and you say auditory deprivation, he had huge problems. When I looked at his hearing loss, I was like, this man can't understand what you're saying when you're standing right here in front of him. So I was expecting his hearing loss to be a lot worse than it was. His hearing loss is not really that bad. It's steeply sloping, but I think his worst threshold is like 70 dB. And he was really more in like the moderate range. But he had gone so stinking long with the hearing loss that his word understanding scores were, I think in his left ear was 36%, and I think it was like 42% was left ear. I'm like, well, that explains a lot. You know, my poor mother, she was like a broken record. You just have to repeat things over and over and over, as we all did. And it was because of that auditory deprivation. Well, the good news is the use it or lose it caveat is only partly true when it comes to the auditory system. We have seen studies done on brain plasticity that shows that over the course of between 90 and 120 days, the brain can learn to rewire itself, particularly for repetitive types of tasks, such as listening. So, did I tell you guys the story about how they determined that we need to look at this, how the chimps? Some of you may have heard. What happened is some neuroscientists were looking at neuroplasticity, and they decided to take some chimps and they sutured some of their fingers together so that they were no longer multi-digited individuals, and they then did repeated brain maps of these chimps, and they watched these serial brain maps, and over the course of about 90 to 120 days, the chimps had learned alternative ways of completing tasks they had always done, and their brain map looked very different. So then they unsutured them, and they noticed that the chimps were having a lot of the problems that they had when they first got sutured, now that they're not. And they watched their brain maps, and lo and behold, after about 120 days, being unsutured again, their brain maps look very similar to their original baseline. So they found this time frame was critical. It's 90 to 120 days, and it was very consistent. So that got some folks who were audiologists interested in whether or not we could replicate or apply those same principles to the auditory system. And conveniently, audiologists can do brain mapping. They don't just have to do it intraoperatively. We actually have but anyway, so ours isn't like a color brain map like you see, but we can watch changes in the patterns of EEG activity. But anyway, the long and short of it is, what we found was that through training and intensive practice, we can actually improve the responsiveness of auditory centers in the brain, and that was correlated with improvements in functional. So what frustrates me is that most hearing aid manufacturers and the FDA only require a 30-day trial period with hearing aids. 3 to 4 months. So I'm not saying that they need to give them 4 months, but 2 to 60 days at least, depending on what you're doing. And most of the manufacturers that we deal with, they are willing to extend it. The FDA only requires 30 days, and so particularly hearing aid stores and a lot of places like that, they hold so that after 30 days, if they haven't returned it, guess what, your SOL, you're stuck with it. But in any case, there have been some researchers and investigators trying to come up with some methods for improving speech understanding. And LACE is one of those programs where several of us will talk about them, but they're actually a standard training protocol that folks will go through that work on improving their listening skills, looks at speech and noise understanding, auditory discrimination, auditory memory, selective auditory retention, some really neat things. They might need speech reading training, group support and education programs, which is something that I'm really pushing to try and get progress to doing here. Great way for our grad students to get their hours much more easily and recap. with hearing aids, although I think it's good for you to sit in on. And then sort of assist with some of our hearing aid fittings and follow-ups. I think it would be much more beneficial if we had some group AR programs going where you could sit in on and help facilitate, because that's much more likely to be something you would do. The audiologist can't get paid for it, but you can. And so I think that would be something that would be beneficial. And then obviously there's going to be periodic follow-up and adjustment with audiologists. So let's dissect this a little bit. There's going to be an informational content where we actually provide the individual with information. We talked about personal adjustment and information. So we're basically going to make sure that they understand how to use the hearing aid, how to take care of it, how to use their accessories, how to hook up their accessories, all of that. That's the informational component. What's really cool is hearing aids are very sophisticated versions of usage and environment. So my patient comes in and says, this hearing aid does not work for me. And I look at it and I see that their average hours of use is 1.5 hours per day. I can say, but how can you really say that? Because you're using it for less than 2 hours a day. Well, I only want to wear them during special occasions. I'm like, but if you only wear it in those special occasions, which are your most challenging listening environments, how the heck are you going to expect them to work for you? Because your brain's getting all this information overload that it's not used to. You have to wear them every day for several hours a day so that your brain can get used to all of this new information. Okay? That's informational counseling. And the technology is great because it now allows us to do that. I'm surprised at the number of times. Listen, I say, how often do you use your brain? Every day. Well, it's been 6 months since your last visit here, and we're logging 14 hours of use. With less than an hour a day. That's interesting. Hook this up and see if it's really working. And then usually they'll say no. The computer won't lie. But they will. But anyway, so we can do follow-up and give them any additional information or counseling. We can do hearing aid fitting and orientation with them. There are some great YouTube videos that I've included for you that you can actually let them just watch the video. This is how you change the battery. This is how you insert and remove the different styles, and it goes through the different styles. So just be prepared. If you've seen the movie Fargo, you're going to picture yourself there because most of these were filmed in close proximity to the hearing aid manufacturers, which are all, for the most part, located in Minnesota. So they sound like my in-laws. I imagine. So it's entertaining, if nothing else, just to hear accents. But I've included these for you because they're things that you can actually bookmark on your computer at work, so that you need to ever do an in-service or a tutorial. But we would go through all of these different activities. Talk about the different batteries and how they're all uniformly color coded. All oranges are 13, all browns are 12, all yellows are size 10, all blues are 6, 7, 5. Regardless of who makes them. So I typically don't teach my patients the number, I teach them the color. Look for blue, look for blue batteries, look for orange batteries, or the brown. Brown's 312 is the most common nowadays. But anyway. So you've got some resources there. We can also do problem-focused or feature-focused auditory rehab, where if they have specific lifestyle considerations, like I have a patient right now who's driving to the verge becoming a raging alcoholic because he's on campus. He's an instructor in another department. And he emails me every day. Or he leaves me a voicemail every other day. And he's in my office every week. And he doesn't often make appointments. He just shows up. And people in the front office are ready to describe him. He's still unpaid. He's still in his trial period. And it's crazy because, like, one of the things is, and I love him. I'm not faulting him for this. He rarely drives a car. Almost always exclusively rides his bike. Everywhere. So guess what one of his main problems is? Wind noise. Well, guess what, dude? When you ride a bike, there's wind noise. You just haven't heard it because you were almost freaking deaf in that range of sounds. Get over it. Moving bodies in an atmosphere create rustle known as wind noise. Get over it. Okay. But we're working because he knows that the hearing aids that we got him have out there, the noise manager. I said, yes. Manager, not eliminator. It reduces that. So it's a lifestyle thing. He has to. And we have to address it and work through it. I have another patient who is a retired music teacher and professional pianist. And she has a fairly mild high-frequency sensory neural hearing loss. She's been successfully using hearing aids. She wasn't happy, but she was happy. And then she got in a car accident. She was a passenger. They got T-boned. She hit her head. And suddenly her hearing was different, and now in her 1 year, rather than a nice slope like this, we've got this huge notch out of the mid-frequency. So, before it was like this, where now there's like this huge notch in the mid-frequencies that it recovers back. So it's the same here, but now there's, and nothing sounds the same. If any of you are going to be audiologists, make it an unspoken rule. Looking at you, I know for sure. You do not want to treat. They will drive you bananas because most of them have such keenly tuned ears that they will never be satisfied. So anyway, I have been struggling for 18 months with this one. I've actually made trips to her home because she was convinced that I didn't understand the phenomenon that she was experiencing and that she felt the only way would be for me to come over and you can stay in the hot drinks. You can see this. I will be happy to come over and we can get into this. Anyway, so my point is that individual folks may have specific lifestyle or other considerations that you're going to have to spend some focused time on. Does that make sense? Okay. Maybe you have that person who's diabetic and has neuropathy, so they need a big hearing aid and they need raised controls on it because they just don't have the motor and the sensory abilities for something that's really small. So again, may play a role. There are computer-based programs like LACE, and what we found is that for the most part, insurance companies will not pay for audiologists to do our rehab, and yet we have seen that patients who undergo some sort of focused oral rehab program, whether it's individual, group, or computerized, that we've seen more than a 50% reduction in returns for credit, in hearing aid returns. You guys saw that. I think the average return rate following completion of that program or one of the programs was about 3%, and folks who hadn't gone through it was closer like 9 or 10% on average. So it's a dramatic difference. So we know that there's a benefit to providing oral rehab. We've also found that individuals who've undergone formal oral rehab can typically be less than, they can typically get by with 2 dB less of amplification than someone who did it and not experience any kind of a loss of discrimination. And remember back to your hearing speech science, every 3 dB change is actually perceived as a doubling of loudness. So you can almost get a perceptual 50% reduction in volume without a loss of intelligibility going through. So that's a big deal. But the problem is that it takes time. It's not always exciting. So some folks came up with investigating computer-based rehab. So you can offer it in their office, they can come in and use a computer, or they can do it at home. Some of them have interactivity where I can send them home, but I have to log in. So because they have to enter a code before it will allow them, so I can track and make sure that they're really working on it, where I can see if they're struggling with something. I can then contact them and provide them with focused, problem-focused rehabilitation. Speech pathologists are able to do it as well. So there's 2 main ones that are out there.
What are
Return for credit. So hearing aid return. The 2 main ones that are out there today are LACE, which stands for Listening and Communication Enhancement. And then there's ARENA. LACE was developed at UC San Francisco, whereas ARENA was developed at Siemens, which is one of the hearing aid manufacturers. And a lot of other things. Hearing aids is one of their big. The thing that I like about LACE is, A, it was developed at a university by a team of researchers who have no financial interest in what Siemens did. For a hearing aid manufacturer, they sold it along with their hearing aids. So now, since then, the folks from UC San Francisco, they make LACE, have partnered with several different manufacturers, but they still deal with the manufacturer, not with the individual. So there's a DVD version, because we know that a lot of our older adults, as many of them that are computer and tech savvy, there are an equal number, if not greater, who aren't. So there is a DVD version. The drawback is I can't monitor what's happening with the DVD version. Big Brother has not arrived to the point where I can tap into their TV and see what they're doing. But with the computer version, I can. It is designed to be used over the course of 20 days, 30 minutes a day. Now that doesn't mean they have to do it 20 days consecutively, but if they do 30 minutes a day, they should, on average, be done with 20 sessions. They can move at their own pace, and if they're really struggling, it may take them longer. They may not advance through an entire lesson in one sitting. They may have to go through it repeatedly. But that's the nice thing about it, is that in some cases they will not advance them to the next skill until they've mastered the previous one. but it looks at degraded speech that includes speech and noise, rapid speech, and computing messages. It looks at auditory closure. That's that kind of fill in the gap things that you're missing. It works on auditory memory, and then it has some role play activities where you do interactive use of strategies. I love it. And there have been numerous independent studies that show it really does work. And you can expect up to a 40% improvement in word understanding. Guess what my dad got along with his hearing aids? Late. Because he was already in the mid-30s to low 40s. If we got the maximum, he was still only going to be in the 70s to low 80s in word understanding. So I wanted to maximize it. He actually does much better. Urena also has a DVD and PC version. They also say it can be used in groups, but they don't really tell you how. Again, it's designed for 20, 30-minute sessions. It only looks at basically some loudness scaling, recognition of everyday sounds, word, and recognition of speech discrimination, speech and noise. There have been no independent or objective studies showing that it basically does it. This is also a company that manufactures computer screen map that is guaranteed 95% accurate. And they don't tell you compared to what. So anyway, I've had some people use it who loved it. I've had some other people say, I'm glad that I didn't get charged extra for this because it was a waste of my time. I have never had anyone have any positive feedback about these, other than the fact that I don't like the fact that I can really check on them and they've been slacking. Question about our rehab. I have your no one can worry about that, but
I just today went to upload like another video.
Yep.
And really, like literally not one of my videos is uploaded.
Are you looking under history or under uploads?
It was under uploads, I think.
None of your videos.
There's one that went through. Like today, I literally had one, and I've uploaded maybe like 8.
I've noticed that a lot of people have said that, and I was gonna look at that tonight.
I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't have time to look for this class, but I felt bad. Literally not a single one of mine. There is one, the very first one. So I like Bree's have been coming up, but mine